On the Talkback Show, on the radio, or whatever audiovisual device you choose to use. Welcome to the GBC podcast, where we talk about the Packers and our hometown of Green Bay. We are the official podcast of the Lot 1 Tailgate Party, which is at Lambeau Field every home game. This is episode 123, created November 11th, 2025. I'm John. I'm in Appleton, Wisconsin. Along with me, Jeff in Minnesota and Neil on the East Coast. Say hello, gentlemen, and tell us what you're drinking.
Frig off. Just frig off.
Good evening, gentlemen. After watching last night's frustrating loss, I found a beer to reflect my mood tonight. From Distruce Brewing, Black Damnation 16, Ivan the Terrible Belgian Royal Stout.
As usual, Jeff, you put a lot of thought into things. For me, it's a beer that was left behind at the Lot 1 tailgate party. It is from Badger State Brewing. It is a Grassy Place Hazy IPA. You know who left this beer behind? Big Ed.
Nice.
He had a fun time at the tailgate party. He was like a kid in a candy store. All right. You can find us on YouTube and Twitter at Green Bay Chat and Facebook at the GBC Podcast, Green Bay Chat. And just the audio is available on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify by searching for Green Bay Chat. Well, what are we looking at? It is a Monday night loss in Green Bay to the Philadelphia Eagles, a score of 10-7. Yeah, we'll talk some more about that. Lot 1 tailgating. We had the disco lights out. And up next, it is on to the Meadowlands. But in 2019, Matt LaFleur came to Green Bay, and there were minimal expectations in that first season following a 6-9-1 campaign when Mike McCarthy was let go. LaFleur surprised Green Bay and the world by going 13-3 in that first season. That is, in fact, followed by two more 13-win seasons. All told, in his first 3 years in Green Bay, the team went 39-10, two NFC championship games, and in those 3 seasons, the team never lost 2 games in a row. But in a city where the fans know that Janet Jackson's first top 5 hit single was "What Have You Done For Me Lately?" Neil, what has Matt LaFleur done for you lately?
Raise my blood pressure, raise my blood alcohol concentration. Oh, you meant things positive. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Matt LaFleur managed to out Matt LaFleur himself in that game. He really raised the ante. We'd had problems scoring in the first quarter or in the first half. This time we went halfway into the fourth quarter before we decided that we were going to finally score. And I could go on for a whole hour about all of the different Matt LaFleur transgressions. We'll try to limit ourselves, but oh my word, how can this happen?
Drink up, Johnny.
How could it happen? How did it happen? It was awful. Was this the worst regular season game in Matt LaFleur's tenure? I think it was.
Jeff, our defense was really good. Half of the game was really good. It's just you need to play the whole game in both sides. But the defense was really good.
I'm not even sure, Jeff, though, it was his worst game in the last 2 weeks. I mean, we still have to recover from the Panthers game. And, let's not forget about Cleveland earlier this year.
And these are the defending Super Bowl champions as well. So, it's at least a good team. But no.
Neil, what was the thing that Green Bay held on to coming out of the postseason last year? We got beat by Philadelphia, the eventual Super Bowl champs. But what did we do to Philadelphia that nobody else did after that? It was hold them to minimal points. And now in a regular season game, Monday night, primetime matchup, you held the Philadelphia Eagles to 10 points. I mean, we could just do the whole episode on hanging our hat on that, but it is just absolutely too frustrating to say you have lost this game.
I just don't understand how the slow starts are managing to get worse. Actually, I've got some theories on why the slow starts are managing to get worse.
It was a rhetorical comment, right, Neil?
But in the last 7 games, we mentioned how poor we have started in the first halves, but we at least got 3 points in all of those first halves. We only scored twice in the first quarter, but at least we scored at least 3 in the first half in the Cleveland game. We got nothing in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and half of the fourth quarter. And the most frustrating part is we had so many opportunities where we're in Philadelphia territory and we decide, fuck it, we're just going to piss this all away.
And piss it away they did, time and time again. Now, they didn't do with penalties this time. The penalties were fairly minimal.
Except twice on fourth down, but
well, there's that. But the execution, the want to, the we're going to punch you in the mouth. We want to dominate you. The defense had that. The offense, no.
Jeff is trying to remind us of the great John McKay's comment of his Tampa Bay Buccaneers squad when he was asked how he felt about his team's execution. He said he was in favor of it.
Yes, John, you're absolutely right. Look, do you want to talk about the runs here? Second down runs?
No, let's just start out.
Neil is stuttering, so there's a lot for him to talk about.
I was irate already on the first drive because our first 5 plays went to Josh Jacobs. Jacobs, rush 5, pass to Jacobs, rush 3, rush 4, rush 2. Love needed to get a sneak to get the first down, and then 1-yard run. 6 of our first 7 plays of the game were to Josh Jacobs, as if the only way that you can win a football game is by establishing the run. And by God, we're going to try to establish the run.
They really, really tried to do that. So that first drive, Neil, they've got a 1st and 10 at the Philly 39, running Josh Jacobs a lot. But in spite of themselves, they're at 1st and 10 at the Philly 39. And then just goofy shit started to happen.
Well, the problem is that our offensive line was truly offensive last night, and it was on not just the running plays, but also on the passing plays. Obviously, on that drive, there was the big sack on Jordan Love, but there were 23 pressures allowed on Jordan Love in that game. And it's not like we threw the ball with reckless abandon in that game, and yet there were still 23 pressures. How can that happen as far as the offense? I know that Philadelphia's good and their defense is really good. It's a really good team, but that's the nature of planning and play calling, is that you've got to scheme such that your quarterback is going to have chances to make plays.
About that first drive, again, it's 1st and 10 at the Philly 39. You've got a 1-yard run, then an 11-yard sack, and then a really long incomplete pass. Now, instead of maybe trying to get, 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, maybe to line up our injured field goal kicker for a long attempt.
Well, Matt didn't know he was injured, to be fair, so let's start out with that.
All right, fine. Troy Aikman did, but, LaFleur didn't apparently. And then we have to punt. 9 plays, 12 yards, 12 net yards, and 5.5 minutes of game time. That's how things started out.
To be fair, when I rewatched the game, that was one positive because, yes, the Christian Watson deciding he wanted to play defense rather than offense on that play was ugly. But that was one of the things that came screaming out of the rewatch from a positive perspective is, well, there are a couple things that could have gone differently, and this game would have an entirely different outcome. It's like we were threatening in a number of places, and the receivers just didn't want to catch the ball to save their lives. Not that they were the only people at fault here.
That's part of the frustration. This, on paper, is a really talented team. The players are there. The playmakers are there. But it's this stupid shit that keeps happening that we watch unfold every week. For me, that's the most frustrating part. Like, how much success could this team have? But I feel like they're just pissing it away.
The good news, Jeff, is that we didn't have to worry about pissing away things on the next few drives because we had 2 3-and-outs in a short 5-play drive for most of the rest of the first half. And we just couldn't get the ball going in the first half. And I think the stat that best expresses how our first half went is that Jordan Love had more rushing yards than net passing yards in the first half. 23 rushing versus 20 net passing.
That's not good, Neil.
Sorry, this was not a feel-good episode, Jeff.
No.
I'm just waiting for the second half, Jeff. You have to remember, I didn't see the first half. I was still out in the parking lot, walking to my car. I did listen to some of it on the radio, and I felt the frustration. You could hear it even coming through. Wayne and Larry definitely were feeling the frustration. And just when you think something's going right, there's a fumble. Mistakes on top of mistakes. It's not necessarily the number of penalties, but it's when these penalties occur that are killing this team. There's too many things they're not doing correctly.
And what they were missing out on is Philly was making some mistake. The fumble possession. The Philly asshats really helped the Packers here. There was a stupid penalty, so they had to re-kick. The Packers got much better field position. And guess what? They started driving down the field again. Hey, here's our offense. We're going to score with time remaining in the first half. And then literally the wheels fell off.
Part of the reason why the wheels fell off in that drive at the end of the first half, though, is because we again decided that we were just going to piss away some time. We got the ball with 1:54 left, quick play to Musgrave, and it's 1:48. And the next two plays, both to Josh Jacobs, took 48 seconds. And so now we're down to a minute, and now we really did have to rush. And it was that rush mindset that made a big difference. Love had a big play. We had a pass to Jacobs. We got to the Philadelphia 27, and then we take two consecutive sacks, the second one being with a fumble. And I think that the urgency that we've talked about that is seemingly missing for this team at the end of halves, this is something that is essentially forcing too much urgency at the end when why does it take 48 seconds to make two plays that you're both giving your running back as short plays when you want to get down and score before halftime to actually take a lead? We would have taken a lead if we had scored before halftime, despite all of the things that the offense had done.
And just for an extra kick in the balls on one of those sacks before the fumble, Jenkins was hurt. Looks like he's going to be out, maybe not the rest of the year, fractured leg. But just, you're like, how much worse can this possibly get?
Matt LaFleur tried to make it worse because after they got the ball back, they drove down a little bit, and then we sort of stopped them. They had 5 seconds left, and they looked like they were content to run out the clock. And for some reason, Matt LaFleur decides, let's call a timeout with 5 seconds left in the first half so they can throw a Hail Mary, maybe get a pass interference, maybe get a touchdown. Why would you call the timeout with 5 seconds left in the first half? That is insane.
It really looked like Philly was just content to let the clock run out. And that timeout, you had texted like, oh, giving them a perfect opportunity for a Hail Mary here. And you're right. And thank God nothing happened. But why would you take that timeout? I mean, was the defense gassed? Was it for his defense? Was he just trying to use up timeout? Hey, I've got an extra timeout.
It looked like what Matt LaFleur likes to do at the end of the half, which is, well, I'm going to get a timeout because maybe my offense is going to be able to get the ball and do something with it, despite the fact that you've got to stop the other team first before anything happens and not let them score before you worry about yourself scoring. And it was clear that that was a timeout thinking, oh, maybe we can get a score here if we get the ball back.
So the half ends 0-0.
Jeff, you're missing one big element there, though. Yes, the Packers scored 0 points in the first half, but the Philadelphia Eagles also scored only 0 points in the first half. Neil, that must mean that our defense did something right for you.
That's the thing. Our defense played so well in that game. Jalen Hurts had only 48 yards passing in the first half on 13 passing attempts, 3.7 yards per attempt. Saquon Barkley had a fairly big first quarter. Second quarter, 5 rushes for 5 yards in the second quarter for Barkley. Essentially, after the first quarter, we shut Barkley down other than that long passing play. But as far as the running game was concerned, we did. And they had other runners going. It didn't matter. They were not moving the ball. They were not converting the first downs. And after a big first quarter, they only had 43 yards total offense in the second quarter. They were 0 for 4 on third down conversions in that second quarter. That's a really good quarter of football.
And perhaps more importantly, Neil, the Packer defense got a turnover. Edgerton Cooper punches out that ball when it looked like Philly's coming down to score. Huge turnover. That was fantastic. That's what we've been hoping our defense is going to do all of these games. They've had precious few turnovers. That was huge. And really hoping that that was going to turn the game at that point.
And the defense stayed on their game in the second half. The Eagles, other than their one touchdown drive, which was basically 2 big plays, and they're going to make some big plays. They've got some big time players. Jalen Hurts was 8 of 16 in the second half, 137 yards again because of those 2 big passing plays. Saquon Barkley, 10 rushes for 20 yards in the second half. Overall, their running backs, 15 rushes for 28 yards in the second half. We shut down the best part of their game. And overall, we kept them under 300 yards, 294 yards of total offense. You can't complain about anything the defense did. If you're quibbling about that one drive they scored a touchdown, you don't understand how the game of football is played because you're going to allow teams to score sometime.
So speaking of scoring, or lack thereof, let's swing back to our offense. The third quarter, we had the ball, well, basically once, and we turned it over on downs. And again, this is one of those where we're moving the ball. We cross midfield, start the drive out, 20-yard pass play to Watson. Fantastic. So then we try and run the ball again. A 4-yard run, a 3-yard run, a 4-yard pass, a -4-yard run on first down. And this again, we were moving and then we try and run too much and bad things happened.
Jeff, that was a theme throughout the entire game. My cousin Chris asked me about what we did on first down over the game, and specifically thinking about inside runs versus outside runs versus passing plays. So our first 6 plays on 1st and 10, run 5 inside, run 3 inside, 1, run fumble -3, that play that may have been play action, run 5, run 3. Our first 6 1st and 10s were running plays to Josh Jacobs. And it gets a bit late. We decide, okay, well, maybe we need to try to do a little bit of hurry up. Second half starts. We get that big 1st and 10 to Watson. And then our next 2 1st and 10, Jacobs 4, Jacobs -4. Next drive, Jacobs 11. Outside run, no different. Wicks 20. And then Jacobs 2 inside run, Jacobs 4 inside run, Jacobs 3 inside run, pass to Jacobs. Overall, if you exclude the last 2.5 minutes of each half, if you consider all of our 1st and 10s, we had 19 1st and 10s in the game, excluding the last 2.5 minutes of each half. Of those 19 1st and 10s, 11 were Josh Jacobs inside runs. 1 was a Josh Jacobs outside run. 4 were short passes to running backs. So that 16 of 19 of our 1st and 10s, when the game was a running or pass balanced type of game, 16 of 19 were plays that were either runs or short passes to our running backs. We only had 3 passes downfield on 1st and 10 outside of the last 2 minutes of a half. That was the incompletion to Dobbs that didn't work, and then a 20-yard pass to Watson and a 20-yard pass to Wick. Oh, geez, maybe if you throw on first down, it's going to work instead of doing the same thing every single first down, which is hand the ball to Jacobs and have him run somewhere between the tackles.
So once Jenkins went out, this offensive line seemed to even have more issues. So to replace our center, and then it sort of went from bad to worse. It went from a little discombobulated, perhaps, and that's when Love really seemed to get happy feet. He wasn't staying in the pocket. Now, he was getting hit a fair amount. He was only sacked 3 times, but he really did not seem comfortable back there for most of the game. And was this because he didn't maybe trust his offensive line?
The sacks were all in the first half, and Love was much more effective in the second half than he was in the first half. But clearly, there was something going on that he had to get rid of the ball quickly. I think the statistic was that Love had under 2.5 seconds on average before he threw the ball, and Hurts had almost a second more per attempt. And if you're not getting time to find your receivers, you're not going to, or if you're afraid that you're going to get slaughtered, and this is certainly a psychology of football that you don't want to get slaughtered, that's something that's going to play into the way you approach the game. And Jordan Love did not have a great game, but I would put him very far down the list of players who were at fault for that game. And going on to that receiver side, right? How many drops did we have from Melton? We had drops from Dobbs. We had a drop from Wicks, right? And these seem to come up at really big points, right? We had a 4th and 9 drop by Bo Melton that was an easy 15-yard conversion. That was to start the second half, right? If we keep moving the ball downfield, that's going to make a difference. And later on in our penultimate drive, we had a Melton drop on a second down and then a Wicks drop on another second down. And that led to 3rd and longs. And I mean, you can't have all of those drops. You know, they're not going to make every play. There are a couple of them. Maybe it's a stretch to call it a drop. But of those 6, they should have caught probably 4 of them for sure. And that's going to kill you as far as having momentum. And it's going to make the quarterback look worse.
I don't know if you guys heard this, but a very interesting fact about Bo Melton is he was a wide receiver who converted to cornerback and then converted back to wide receiver. Joe Buck told me that 8 times last night. I'm hoping you heard it as well.
You know, Troy and Joe are on. I tend to turn the volume down, but
you could definitely tell that Joe for sure was bored with this game. He was not getting satisfaction out of either offense in this game, and he was looking for filler. And, you know, Troy's Troy. Troy just kind of repeats things and says Green Bay wrong, and we move on, right?
Green Bay.
But we did move the ball at least some in the second half, and I think that's part of where our frustration is. It's we know that Philadelphia is good. We know that Philadelphia can disrupt our game plan, but it didn't seem like we were going into the game the best way possible, and that's what is so frustrating. And you can see this in a couple of different ways. I mentioned all of these first down running plays where we basically told them what we're going to do. we've got the elephant in the room, which is sitting right here on the fourth panel, that 4th and 1 where they called a play that the Eagles called out the play at the line of scrimmage. Both Love and Jacobs heard that they had called out the play, and they decided, fuck it, we're going to still do that same play anyway. And they asked Jacobs about this. It was the 4th time we had done that play in the game. It's a 4th and 1. Shouldn't you be pulling out some sort of different stop, do something different on a 4th and 1 rather than give him something they've already seen 3 times in this game already?
I would have been excited to see a Jeff sweep at that point.
No, you wouldn't have, because that would have lost 8 yards instead. But the other thing is that we played a very consistent personnel package. We were at 11 personnel, so 3 wide receivers on 83% of our snaps. We only went 2 tight ends on 8 plays. We went a 6th lineman on 4 plays. That didn't work out so well for us, but we at least did that. One of them was the long pass to Watson. And then we had 2 running backs on 2 plays. So there wasn't a lot of variation as far as the looks that we were giving them either. And I just don't understand how you can't be trying to keep the defense more on an edge. And we basically said, no, we're going to tell you everything that we're going to do. We're going to do the same types of things on every play and hope that it works when we've got an inferior offensive line. Like if you've got the Lombardi offensive line that's just going to tell the other team, we're going to plow over you. We don't give a shit. That's one thing, but that's not what our offensive line is. It's not what our receivers are at their current state, certainly with the injury level they're at. And you've got to be thinking about how you're going to keep that other team on the edge so they don't know what's going on. And that was the most frustrating thing of all, is that we seem to not even be trying. And by we, I mean Matt LaFleur, because you and I were not calling plays. Matt LaFleur was calling plays. He was sending in the formations that were going to be used. And it was almost as if he gave up. And I think that meme of him looking at his tablet and just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on. And that's the dominant image of the game, certainly, other than what happened on the field. And I just don't understand how that can happen. He needs help from his offensive coordinator, Adam Stenavich. I don't know why Adam's not in his ear constantly. He also needs help from other players on the offense, because this concept of him having the full responsibility for calling plays without getting all of this feedback that should be telling him, no, stop running on first down every single 1st and 10. There just has to be feedback, and he's not getting that feedback. And yes, there's a Matt LaFleur problem here, but there's a problem with the other coaching staff there as well.
So the profound question that came out today as well, Neil, is referring back to that 39-10 in LaFleur's first 3 seasons. Is that a product of Aaron Rodgers audibling out of nearly every call that Matt LaFleur made? And if so, is Jordan Love not confident enough to call the audible, or is he under different orders than what maybe Rodgers was?
That's a great rhetorical question. One thing that we're seeing with Love, some games we see him, he's saying, I'm going to throw the ball wherever I damn well please, and makes these beautiful tight window throws. Other games, he's thrown up some basically really bad passes and just, okay, that's a little bit inconsistent or uncharacteristic, but we'll look past it. He's trying to make something happen. Last night was sort of a weird combination of both, it seemed. Or I don't know if it was happy feet, he didn't trust his offensive line. Maybe he was getting frustrated with passes bouncing off the receiver's hands. I don't know, but at a certain point, his leadership, regardless of his statistics, is going to have to come through here almost in spite of Matt LaFleur, because Matt LaFleur, he's not making the plays. It starts with Jordan Love, at least on the offense, and that was the deficiency last night. The offense was deficient last night.
But again, the play calling and the plays that are made have to depend on what the offense is actually doing. It can't be on this concept of we're going to establish the run. And this is the problem that we have right now. The Packers run blocking right now is 26th in the NFL at 3.9 yards per attempt. We are one of only 5 teams with less than 1 yard before contact on runs on early downs. It's not just that Josh Jacobs is not escaping. It's that we're not even generating the space. They're hitting Josh or whoever's running early on. And the other problem that we had is that we are adjusting to the loss of Tucker Kraft. And we only had 39 total yards after catch from our wide receivers and tight ends. And the thing that was most painful as far as watching Musgrave, and I do have faith in Musgrave down the line, but Musgrave had 3 receptions. Every one of them was either 1 or 2 yards short of the first down marker. And you know that Tucker Kraft is converting at least 2 of those, if not all 3 of those. And part of this is he has not been playing a lot. He's got to get more of a nose for getting the first down and focus on that. but there was a loss there. And if Musgrave is converting first downs, that makes a difference too.
It's that want it mentality, though, again. When he's catching the ball, it seems like he's, I'll say, not looking for contact, but he's not looking like Tucker Kraft to run your ass over. He's not running angry. He's sort of kind of going down. And that played out huge at the end of the game. He's sort of just
the play right before the one that's on the screen. It's a 4th and 1 because Musgrave just sort of fell down when there was a couple D-backs in front of him. There wasn't that much contact. He could have run those bastards over, gotten the first down. We're not even worried about the 4th and 1 here. We're worried about some other fuck up that was made 20 yards further down the field.
I feel watching that one, I feel like he was worried about keeping that ball covered up. I think that was his concern, was having to carry 2 guys and then getting the ball knocked out, which obviously would have been worse. Yeah, maybe a little too much of a conservative mindset on his part, but you're right, Neil. Yeah, you get that extra push, and we're not worried about this 4th and 1 play.
And then the other thing about the offense is that urgency problem that we had at the end of the first half that we've had in some previous games. That showed up in the fourth quarter as well. On the drive that we scored our touchdown, we are down 10 now, 2 scores with 10:35 left. And it took us 11 plays and 4 minutes and 46 seconds to get that touchdown when we knew at that point that we needed 2 scores. We had 8 plays that were 8 yards or less, plus an incompletion. And our longest play was 10 yards and the defensive pass interference. We weren't looking to move the ball quickly down the field when we absolutely needed 2 scores. And I don't think that you can assume that your defense is going to continue to hold Philadelphia and prevent them from scoring more. Now, thankfully they did. And thankfully Nick Sirianni decided to have his own set of brain farts there in the fourth quarter. But you can't count on that. You have to assume that maybe we're going to need 2 touchdowns and something else. And there's got to be that urgency when you're down 2 scores and you're halfway through the fourth quarter already.
Is that like the plays coming in slowly? Is that Love not really understanding the offense? I mean, at this part,
it's too many. It's too many short plays. It's too damn many short plays.
At this time of the year, this should be a fairly well-oiled machine.
This is a team. We're at the halfway point. This team is 5-3-1, 9 games in. We got 8 games left to play. The interesting thing about those 3 losses, Neil, other than 2 of them being at home, each of them by 3 points. And your defense, again, is doing a great job. You're holding teams to 16, 13, and 10 points in these games. 2 of those teams in the Panthers and the Browns, you definitely should have been holding them down. And then the Eagles, you hold to 10 points. There are some things to hang your hat on, especially with this defense. But to get home in the second half of the season, to get a good run, not only do you have to have your offense moving, but this team has to get healthy too. There are some players that need to get coming back. Jaden Reed needs to get back on the field to help this offense. And you need Matthew Golden healthy, and you need Dontavian Wicks healthy, and just more production from the offense.
So, gentlemen, just to put a bow on this, the Packers are 1-3 when allowing 16 points or less. The rest of the NFL is 62-5.
How?
You know, they say defense wins championships, but you can't win if you don't score any points, and that's the only statistic that matters, right, is getting the points on the board.
In the last 2 games, the Packers have crossed midfield 11 times. We are into Philadelphia territory a lot. We've crossed midfield 11 times the last 2 games. We have only scored 20 total points on drives that went into opposing territory. 2 points per drive that goes into opposing territory. That's how you don't score points. That's how you lose games when your defense is playing great.
Well, let's talk about the ass hat, since we haven't really flogged ourselves enough here. Now, unfortunately, our punter can't score.
But he can look good out there while he's doing his job.
You know, John, he looked pretty good once again. We talked about the potential injury or whatever the hell's going on with McManus, but it's an awful lot to ask for a game-tying 64-yard field goal in swirling winds in cold weather at Lambeau Field. It would have been really nice if we could have gotten 10 more yards, 5 more yards. Why we didn't kick other field goals earlier in the game, try it. I don't know. Again, is it this injury?
What I've got to ask is, did Luke Haversick fuck Matt LaFleur's wife? Because I just don't have an explanation for why Haversick is not playing when his leg is actually capable of kicking the 57, 58 yards, both of which we eschewed earlier in the game and decided to punt instead.
And there's nothing coming out of camp that explains this. You have 2 kickers on the team. They're carrying 2 kickers. And then they put one of them inactive every week. And it's clearly obvious to everybody but Rich Bisaccia and Matt LaFleur that Brandon McManus is not the same kicker that he was when he came into town.
That's right. And I don't know, maybe he did, Neil, but here's the guy. He's a fan favorite too. He's got the franchise record, right?
Yes.
From a few weeks back.
Right.
61. Let this guy cook. Just put him out there. It can't be any worse than McManus
it
at this
get any
point.
Worse.
Right. So come on.
And the final score, once again, 10-7. Packers losing on Monday night. But Jeff, Neal, one thing we never lose is the tailgate party. And yes, it was a Monday night party. And as you can see, we had the disco light rolling. Scott, Justin up there doing Tim, the diehard Packer fan. And it wasn't a terribly chilly night on our side of the stadium. This is one of the nice things where we are. We are just east of the building. We're nestled up against it. So anytime there's a westerly wind, northwest, southwesterly wind, we are protected. And so we had I would say a relatively mild night, a good crowd, but this was, Neil, it was our favorite gold package crowd. And I can assure you there was a late arriving crowd. You know where the Oneida steps are right by us? You actually have two entries there. At the bottom of the steps, you have to go through the metal detector. At the top of the steps is where you swipe your phone to get into the building. And at the bottom of the steps, there was a massive humanity that filled the concourse from those metal detectors all the way back to the Tundra Village at kickoff and up to about 10 minutes after kickoff. And what I will tell the Milwaukee ticket package holders for the future, there are other entrances to this building that you can use. You don't have to all go into the Oneida steps. I know it looks perfect when you're coming from the east side of the stadium, but hey, just go to the right a little bit. The American Family Gate works all right. Walk around the building, go into the Fleet Farm Gate, go into the Associated Bank Gate, or whatever else is on the other side of the stadium. There were so many people that did not get into the building till probably close to halfway through the first quarter.
The crowd sounded good on television, I thought. There were not as many Eagles fans as I had feared. And certainly when the game was done, there were fans that were down by the booth, but it was a lot fewer than I had expected it might be. What was your sense as far as the relative numbers of Eagles fans at the game?
You know, I felt the same way. We did have probably what I would say a normal number of visiting fans that came through. One of the things that I had heard in talking to friends coming and going, that they went to the Green Bay Distillery on Sunday, and a group of 200 Eagles fans had already booked out the main room, or the room that they reserve out there. So it looked like a massive takeover of this facility near Lambeau Field. But realistically, if it's the only one that they're using, kind of like what the Packer fans do on a Packers Everywhere type of event. So, you know, credit the Philly fans. They do travel well. They came out in the cold weather. They participated in the tailgate party. I'm not faulting them at all. It just was one of those things where a perfect storm of being a Monday night game and everything else, that you have all these people trying to get into one gate, and they should have gone around the building. So I'm sure there were a lot of frustrated people who were not in the building as soon as they wanted to be.
Maybe they knew, John. Maybe they knew.
Maybe they knew. Yeah, maybe they knew there was nothing there for them to see. Neil, it's a different feel at the Meadowlands, though. You're going to be heading there for the New York Giants Packers matchup. There was no snow or anything like that inclement in Green Bay Monday night, Neil, but what's your weather forecast coming up for New York?
John, it's still Tuesday. I don't even think the weathermen know. They claim they know shit, but I look at the weather.
You got to tell your brother, I tried to get a weather forecast on the show, but you just won't let it happen. All right.
But I am looking forward to a good game in the Meadowlands. The Meadowlands is easy enough for me to get to. I suspect there are going to be a solid number of Packers fans there. I've had a couple of really good games in the Meadowlands, including the one that's shown at that game in December. I got Tramon Williams gloves as he got his 38th interception. The Meadowlands is a fun stadium. The Giants fans are good. What I will say is that prior to the Carolina game, I had a 9-game Packers winning streak, and Carolina busted that. And I really obviously wanted the Packers to win, but I also wanted to have some measure of vengeance, because the last time I was at the Meadowlands was the Danny DeVito game, which was obviously a loss for the Packers. And it seems that this is the appropriate time for us to come full circle on the Meadowlands and wipe away the stench of the Danny DeVito game.
The Packers are 7.5-point favorites currently. They'll be facing a Giants team that will have an interim coach. Are the Giants going to rally around their interim coach? I mean, they've lost 4 in a row. A couple of them have only been by just a few points. I'm going to go back and say this was my sleeper playoff team, Yeah, that's not looking like such a good prediction at this
It
point.
sure did for a moment on Sunday against Chicago. Like they played well, and all of a sudden they just shit the bed and decided to give up 14 points. It cost Brian Daboll his job. So here's
Yeah.
a situation. Yes, you have a team that has 2 wins. They can't finish, and now they don't have a head coach coming into this game.
They do have a head coach. It's Mike Kafka. And quite frankly, this season has had plenty of Kafka-esque qualities. So we might as well get Kafka himself.
Yes, for Kafka qualities, if you will, Neil.
But that's what concerns me. So the Packers are coming off this demoralizing loss. Now, the Giants' defense is pretty good. Their linebacker, Brian Burns, is tied for first in the NFL with 11 sacks. And based on the way our offensive line has been playing, how many more is Mr. Burns going to get this weekend?
On the other hand, nobody else on the Giants has more than 2.5 sacks. And overall, we actually have one more sack on the season than they do. And I don't know where you're getting this. Giants defense is pretty good. You go by DVOA, their defense is 27th in the NFL. They're 24th overall, 23rd on offense, 10th on special teams. They're good at special teams. Obviously, we've been sort of all over the place, but I mean, what I got from looking at the Giants' overall numbers is they certainly look like they're better than a 2-8 team. They look like they're maybe a 4-6 team. They're sort of middling on offense and defense. Offense 14th in yards per game. They have been sacked 26 times, middle of the road for other things, but their defense is 29th in yards allowed per game, 31st against the run. And yeah, bad run defenses don't seem to help us at all. And I'm concerned that Matt LaFleur is going to decide to say, oh, we're going to exploit this bad run defense, but they're completely middling or worse in everything they do. And oh, by the way, the most important player they have, the one that Giants fans are actually excited about, Jackson Dart, left the game against the Bears with a concussion. Yeah. The odds are that he's not going to play against the Packers. And you know what that means? It could be Jameis Winston time.
Or they could continue to let Russell Wilson cook. And, you know, that's just what you need is to have Russell Wilson have a career day against Green Bay. And this is a guy who is literally playing himself out of the Hall of Fame every time that he gets on the field. He looked miserable on Sunday when he came in relief. And if Green Bay has to face Russell and they let past demons take over, it could be an ugly day. But, you know, let's hang our hat on the fact that this defense has played well recently, that if you can keep the Giants from scoring, I don't think we mentioned it. How many tackles for a loss did Green Bay have on Monday night? It was, Jeff, six? This is a game where you have to go and exploit a lesser team. And yeah, we said that about Carolina. We said that about Cleveland. Okay, let's do it, though. I mean, ideally, they're not overlooking this game for Minnesota in 2 weeks, but let's go to New York and let's exploit a lesser team and let's get a cure for what ails you with a win in New York.
And they don't have the weapons on offense either. You know, Malik Neighbors going out a few weeks ago obviously hurt their ability to really move the ball downfield. Their best receiver is Wendell Robinson, and he does have 53 receptions, but he only has 602 yards on the year. And, you know, he's basically a more consistent version of Romeo Doubs. I have confidence that we're going to be able to control their possession type receiver, and that's essentially what their weapon is on offense. And rushing, Jackson Dart is basically their best rusher, and obviously he's not likely going to be playing. They've got a whole series of things that are going against him. And yes, the only thing that I worry about in this regard is that new coach bounce that teams can get. At least in soccer, this is considered a normal thing, that you hate to have a manager fired immediately before you're going to play the team because there's a new manager bounce in that first game. Now, football is a much more complicated game than football, and it's a lot more difficult for a new head coach in the NFL to get his players playing in a completely different way than it is in football. But I still have this football concern no matter which football we're playing.
That's my concern. I don't think the Packers can afford to overlook anybody at this point. They have not earned that right to be able to overlook anybody. This is probably the easiest game, and I say easy in air quotes. This is probably the easiest game left. Everything else is going to be division games, intra-division games. This is a get-right game. I'm saying that this is a must-win game. If they can get through this game, they can look good on offense and defense, score some points for Christ's sake, and get right with this game. That'll kind of take away a little bit of the stink from these last couple games and hopefully launch them into the division because it's going to get a whole hell of a lot more difficult coming up.
I'm of the same mindset. They've got to just take the approach that we're going to have to win this game. We've got to smash them. We are a better team than we've been showing over the last few weeks. And we've got to take control. We've got to put teams on notice that, yes, that is not the real Packers team. Yes, we are capable of dominating opponents, not just on defense, but also doing on offense. I think the offense is going to come with a chip on their shoulder going to this game. I think the defense is going to play great as the defense has been doing, and that is the key to the game. And I think that there also will be a fair number of Packers fans at the game. There often are a fair number of Packers fans at the Meadowlands. The Giants 2-8. The ticket prices are going down, down, down. I'm still not buying at this point because I have a feeling they're going to fall even more. And I think it's going to be a really good atmosphere for Packers fans on Sunday.
So in our preseason predictions, I guess on a positive note, all three of us predicted a loss against Philadelphia Monday night. We've got that going for us. But on the other side of that coin, we did each pick a win against the New York Giants. So in a sense, we looked at this and said, yeah, Philly's going to be a tough game, but the Giants game is going to be a bounce back game. A bounce back is exactly what is needed here. Let's get a win on Sunday in New York, come back for the start of a stretch of division opponents then with the Minnesota Vikings. Let's go, Pack, go.
And let's hope that Matt LaFleur has learned from the problems that he's had. I mean, he's heard the criticism about our problem scoring. And the fact is, we are 30th in scores per drive and 26th in points per drive on opening drives this year. It's not just this perception that we stink on opening drives. We actually do stink on opening drives. And the other thing is that we are averaging 3.9 yards per rush on first down. We are averaging 8.2 yards per pass on first down. So for some reason, we have a lot more rushes than passes on first down. I hope that Matt LaFleur and the coaching staff is reflective on the fact that we've been predictable. I think that is the one positive of the 4th and 1 play is that the opposing team told us that we knew what was going to happen. And I hope that that is going to spur Matt LaFleur to try to throw a little bit more of a chaos factor into his play calling, because we can't just be the team that everyone knows what's going to happen. And if we can overcome these demons, overcome these things that are not what has been the normal part of Matt LaFleur over the time that he's been here, we go back to playing the type of football we've been doing at our best, we're in a good position. And yes, I think this is a get-right game. Let's do it. Go, Pack, go.
If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit subscribe, leave a comment. You can find the GBC podcast. We are at Green Bay Chat. That's all one word, Green Bay Chat. We are on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, Blue Sky, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. And on Facebook, it's the GBC Podcast Green Bay Chat. And please follow us on any and all of those social media platforms. And may you fully appreciate the magnitude of your impending good fortune. Thanks for joining us.
Good night.
Go, Pack, go.